All right, we're going to get started. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good to be back. I hurt my knee while we were off. Wasn't on the video, man. I was on there, didn't do it then. Yeah, we're back in full force, so I'm sure you've read all the news online and Facebook and whatever, and Twitter, and there is some information on coming this way on makeup days, as refers to faculty you might have heard of and students, but they're working that out this week, so I'm not even going to make mention of any dates yet until they work all that out. If I was to guess, it will be much different than what was given yesterday to us. I think the original was we're going all the way to the 23rd of December or something. That won't happen. So anyway, so if you hear anything or read anything online about extended calendar or whatever from students or anybody else, just kind of hold off on any change of anything until the board's going to meet tonight. They're meeting at 6 and getting everything straightened out as far as dates related. And that's one of the issues that was brought up. And you might have a question about possibly. I don't have an answer for you, except wait until a final announcement's made on dates changed for the calendar of campus. So I did email everybody about stuff that was due Sunday. You have till Friday to get done in here, I believe. And so if you need more time, let me know. We can definitely extend that out through Sunday if you need it. But hopefully it should be okay. Also, I found out, was a week 5 quiz had a duplicate or week 4? Was a week 5 quiz that had a duplicate or week 4?
Say again?
Week 5 or 4 quiz had a duplicate
four.
question. Week 4. Week 4 quiz has a duplicate question in there, just an FYI. Lab this week, we're going to be doing 2 labs. We're on week 5 in lab defenses. We're going to be doing the slated one that we had in week 5, as well as one on Internet Explorer settings. And I'll pull it up real quick. So you'll notice in week 4 there's no lab. I took it out. Week 5, though, we will have, you'll get 1 score for the lab, plural labs. We'll be doing the man in the middle attack this Thursday. As soon as we're done with the man in the middle attack, we'll go right into, I'll have a handout for you, and we'll do a little quick demo of settings, new settings actually, in IE. The document that we had in the lab would need to be updated, so I updated that, and we're going to be doing a mini lab on changes in IE. Also, we'll look at some reports on browsers, the war between browsers, i.e. Firefox and Chrome, and you'll kind of surprised on the #1 used browser. Students always are each semester. You probably in your mind have an idea of what you think it might be, and you might be wrong, you might be right. Find out Thursday. But we'll talk about that and why the browser that's #1 is #1, why the browser number 2, #2, #3, #3. And the 3 we'll be looking at is IE, Chrome, and Firefox. And I'm sure you've used all 3. As you know, IE comes default with the OS. Chrome and Firefox have to download separately. And there's uses for all of them. So man in the middle attack, when you come in on Thursday, I'll have it set up on this machine here. You guys will come in, and I'll have you log in to your machine to facebook.com with a bogus, I got to put emphasis on bogus username and password, because I'll be collecting in that lab those username and passwords on this machine. And then after a time where you'll put in a bogus username and password and put it in a couple more times on the, like when you log into something, it brings you to a page of you failed, but here's another page where you can put in some more attempts. So I'll have you attempt it 2 or 3 times, and I'll stop the man in the middle attack, have you come behind this machine here, and show you how it's done. And you'll have the steps of how the lab is created to where you can duplicate that at home. And we'll talk about that. where I will recommend places not to do this, but home is definitely one place you can do it with no problem. So it's kind of an eye-opening lab. At the same time, kind of cool, I think, because you get to kind of see how how hackers do what they do and why they do what they do. And we'll also talk about ways you can stop a man-in-the-middle attack from occurring on a network in a work environment. When I finished this lab, I updated a couple years ago. I was in St. Louis, Missouri, not too far from where I was raised, and when we go home, when I mean home, it's about halfway between here and Joplin, Missouri. St. Louis is about 4.5 hours. So we usually stop there to meet family that's from Joplin or around the surrounding area. We all meet in St. Louis. We stay at a jury there right next to the old St. Louis Depot downtown, if you've ever been there by the Arch. And the manager and jury, so we stay there so often, kind of know the guy. I was doing this, getting ready for this lab. We were there the weekend before this lab was going to occur that semester. And I was wanting to test it. I just made a whole bunch of changes because I was testing how long it would take to set up, how long it would take to implement, and go live. I got down to about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes from start to finish getting the man-in-the-middle attack up and running. But I wanted to do it on his network in the hotel. So I asked his permission. You know how all hotels have the, snack area or whatever, where people go down and eat breakfast and stuff like that. It was in that area there. And they usually have free Wi-Fi in those lobbies. So I connected to it, turned on the attack, had my son and some other folks go to the same Wi-Fi, which was actually on the network my laptop was on. And we played with it and got it working really well. And so we perfected it actually in a hotel lobby, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the lab was perfected in a hotel lobby. And so I thank jury for that. So tonight we're going to be talking about, in Chapter 5, network defenses. And so, going over some of the hardware security and physical security of a network and how to secure them. So let me get my slideshow set up here.
It's on PowerPoint.
It is, yeah. Well, I've got this downloaded here. I'm just seeing it on the overhead, but it's being recorded. So let's see. Let's do it that way. Okay, so we're going to look at some how to secure a network, a host network. Look at some security applications, loss prevention. So getting into securing a host, this would be your server and or client. Today, mainly a host is referred to as a server, but technically it can be a client as well. Also, how do you secure applications? How to secure data? The three elements of a network: the server, client, data, and the actual apps that it runs upon. So to secure the hardware, it involves, like it does on this overhead projector here. If you notice on the ceiling, there's a steel cable on the back that goes up to a ceiling that mounts itself to that for theft. You say, well, this room's alarmed, and it is. You'll notice the PCs you're on aren't cabled anymore, but they used to be. But if you go to any other classroom on campus that's not alarmed, like this room, you're going to see cables on everything, just for theft prevention. So in every business, you're going to have that type of thing when it comes to, let's say, kiosk computers in a public library. You'll see cables on those, I'm guessing. Go into a convenience store and they've got some type of computer for people to use. Walmart, wherever, JCPenney, Sears, public kiosks for people to fill out job applications. Kmart, I think, has a public one as well. Target. Basically, they're very inexpensive. The mounting devices are. The cable's not too cheap. About every 3 foot of cable is about $8 to $10, which isn't that expensive, but when you talk about hundreds of computers you're doing it on, it can add up. So basically you have a mount that you mount the monitor to and the CPU to, and then it's mounted to a floor or to a ceiling, wherever the device is. Securing the operating system software, we'll talk about that, how that's done, and then using security-based software applications to monitor such things like logs, failed login attempts on computers, red flags in areas when you have a failed login attempt after hours. We'll talk about that. So one of the ways to prevent all the unauthorized users from gaining access to a computer, you can do it 3 ways: through the physical access of it, hosting hardware, software, and mobile security devices. And your phones, my phone, my tablet, your tablets, laptops, all have built-in security protocols. If it's stolen, or if it's, we'll just say stolen, you can remote wipe it, or you can, some of you might have to pay for a service, some of you might not, depending on what device you have. But definitely all mobile devices have it on the hardware security, on securing the device. There are some laptops that have it today. And some laptops you can buy that already have the security ports on the side of the keyboard or such, where you can put a cable in it to mount it to something. They might already have that. So physical security just restricts the access to the equipment areas, meaning they can't take it out of that area. And it's good to have in public areas to where it's not watched a lot, possibly. Again, libraries, any public area, public Wi-Fi hotspots. Hardware locks I've already talked about. Basically, it's a standard key lock mechanism that deadbolts into that lock security. It has a special key that you can unlock, kind of like if you ever done any vending before, it kind of looks like a vending machine lock, is what it looks like. The key does anyway. The key locks can be compromised if lost keys, stolen, or duplicated. So here's an example of some residential you're familiar with, both deadbolt and key entry. So recommended key management when IT people leave or non-IT people leave that have keys is to have the locks changed thereafter somebody's quit or fired. You say, well, they turned their keys in. Well, it's not real hard to get keys duplicated anymore. The locksmiths are supposed to look for that do not duplicate sign on the key, but a lot of times you can find people to do it. And don't, or you can even watch YouTube videos and do it yourself. It's not real difficult to do. Inspect the locks regularly. Issue only authorized keys. What that means, only authorized users. Keep records of who uses the keys and who turns them in. Keep track of issued keys. And then master keys should not have identifying marks at all. Secure unused keys in lock safe. Set up monitoring procedure of some type. I recommend cameras on doors would be highly recommended to do. And you can mark the keys do not duplicate as well. Cipher lock. Basically what this is more sophisticated lock. A combination of sequences to open the door, can be programmable to the individual code. So you can put in a 4-digit code of your own to get in. It records when the door's open and by which code, and it keeps a log of that. A lot of places use this. If you're on salary, they'll use it to determine when you came in and came out of the building, to determine if you were late or whatever the case may be. Now, the problem with that is if shoulder surfing, somebody looking over their shoulder, but a lot of places, we'll talk about in a second, use proximity cards, which we use here on campus, to get into doors. Now, these doors also have buttons that you can push if you know your code, but proximity cards are the best way to go because you have less likelihood of somebody doing a shoulder surfing type of thing. So this is kind of what a sensor cipher lock looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or like ours has 9 numbers, I think, on it, or 10 numbers, 0 through 9. And you just push the sequence of the code and get into the door. All right, and you'll see a lot of, if you live in a residential condo and they might have a place for people to work out, you might have a door that has something like that, or possibly a storage room or something like that might have that. But I have seen server rooms that have doors like this as well for people to get in. So alternative access method is also what's called a physical token or an ID badge. An ID badge basically has your photo. It also emits what's a signal identifying the user of and a proximity reader. So there's mine, and on the back it's got a code. And when I put it, I have it in my wallet to where I can just put it against a door, and it reads the code. I could scan this too. In fact, I did scan this a while back, and it comes up with my code number basically when you scan it with any scanner app. Doesn't matter what it is. And so a lot of businesses use that. Anybody use a proximity card before? And maybe you have a membership somewhere possibly, and you use a proximity card to get into a door. Very popular to use. And then the next one is coming up that's becoming more popular is RFID tags, and they can be fixed inside of a badge. They kind of protrude outside a little bit, like a little bump or ridge, but it can be read by a reader, and it can be read. The badge can remain in a bearer's pocket as they walk by. RFID tags, though, you can find everywhere now. A lot of different companies are making them to put anywhere, like on any device, and can track them. So keys, to track keys that are lost, or hardware in a business. So I can put an RFID tag on this remote, right? Say it's in a conference room, and we don't want people walking off with them, so we can put an RFID tag on this to alert someone whenever it leaves the room. Could have a scanner right outside the door that would alert IT that just left the door, and they could go down and find out what's going on. It could also, throughout the building, keep track of where this is at too by scans throughout the building. Little scanners. You've seen scanners before in stores maybe, right? Where you walk by and a little alarm went off because you bought something and didn't take the tag off of it, whether it be a shirt or pants or whatever. Anybody had that happen to them? Happens at Christmas all the time, right? You're shopping and inevitably you're walking out of the store and beep, beep, beep. 10 people walk out at the same time and the alarm goes off. You're like, okay. Everybody looks at their sack and it goes, and it just keeps walking, right? So that's RFID tag. But the technology is such now to where they're incorporating RFID tags with Bluetooth to where within a business anywhere or a home use, you can put this device on a keychain, and maybe you have a spouse or friend, family, coworker, somebody that lives with you that loses their keys all the time. With this device, you can literally go on an app on your phone and find out where it's at. And that's kind of tell you exactly where to walk to find it. I don't have that problem, but I know some folks in my family do. So I thought about buying something like that maybe for Christmas, they're reasonable enough to do. I think you can buy like 4 or 5 of them for like $30, $40 or something. They can put these little tags on anything. And then it has an app that you can track it within 150, 200 feet radius of the house. So something to think about. But here's this basically looks like a little sticker, but notice I said it protrudes a little bit. That little dot there is actually what's being scanned, or that emits a signal of some type, that little dot. And by the way, that's what actually sets off the alarms in these businesses. And the reason they set off is a lot of these businesses have the same readers, and you can be in one store, leave, they forget to take the tag off, go in another store, and it catches it. A lot of people, by the way, if you ever worked in retail at Christmas time, turn off those readers because it's annoying. Especially, not to say people don't steal stuff, they do, but you don't have to be, a lot of false alarms too that go on all the time. Anybody worked in retail at Christmas time? So you know what I'm talking about. So a lot of false positives. It's going to be a nightmare. Plus, it gives you a headache, especially if you work close to one of those things. It literally just is some of those alarms are just really annoying, high pitch annoying. Used to be it was like a calming, soothing alarm. Anymore, it's like almost like a dog whistle. It's a really shrieking sound. I don't know. I think people around Christmas time just ignore it. Access list is another way to secure. Basically, it's people like this door here, right? All these doors around campus have proximity cards, readers, but they also keep a log of everything in that door itself. There's a little computer chip in the door. It has to have a little battery, like a watch battery that holds it, but it keeps a list of all of the numbers that can get into this door, basically. Whether I scan it with my card or I type in my number, either one. It records also when I do this too throughout the semester, how often I use it throughout the semester. A man trap is a term you might have seen, maybe not heard of before, but seen this in Mission Impossible. The newest Mission Impossible movie has a man trap in the movie. And basically it's where it separates the secure area from non-secure area. And once you get in the area, only you be kind of trapped in that area. You're kind of in the middle area, you kind of get trapped. Devices monitor, control, 2 interlocking doors. Only one door may open at a time. Like for instance, you get in one door here with a proximity card, let's say. You're walking through the other door, you have to do what's called a gate monitor, where as you're walking down the hallway, and this is what they did in Mission Impossible, as you're walking down the hallway, it records your gait. If your walking gait doesn't match the person, then it traps you in this man trap. You can't leave, and then security comes. So in the movie, what they had to do was they had to go underwater and replace the chip for the guy that they were trying to fake being with the Tom Cruise as he's walking through this man trap. And so man traps are very popular, by the way, in police stations. They're popular in governmental facilities. And generally on a man trap, the first one is not weak, but it's weaker than the second one, if that makes sense. So the first authentication is weaker than the second one. The second one's stronger. Like it's easy to get anybody's proximity card, right, and steal it. Not so easy to figure out how somebody walks and walk exactly like that person. That's a little trickier. Yes?
You mean a physical trap, the door's locked or something?
Yeah, well, I've come through this door, right, with my proximity, but I can't get out because it's locked. It's one way. Yeah. I might have a handle, but I can't get out. And so, but yeah, definitely. Just like on these doors here, if I lock these tonight and shut it, you guys can get out, but the people coming in can't get in unless I push the handle down. So those type of doors are there. But man traps are very, very popular in, trying to think of the other use for them, in airports. Airports have them, for sure. My wife's handicapped, so I have to, we get to go around the security gates, and so I get to see a lot of things behind the scenes, kind of where the security folks go, and they have a lot of these man trap type of settings. So you go, they have to use a badge for one, the other one they have to type in a code, the other one they have to do facial recognition. So there's a whole bunch of weird, but you know, it's I mean it's good, but.
It wasn't marked very well. When I went into an area I wasn't supposed to, but I didn't know. I've never been to the airport.
Sure.
I thought that was the way the gate. And the plane closed back, came up, and gave me a hard time.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And then he said that guy asked somebody else, did you see him go? That's what
Yeah, inquiry of who you are and all that. Yeah. Well, there is monitors that monitor it, like I said, and you're not going to find many server rooms that have this, by the way. But you will find buildings that might have this, possibly. If they're, it doesn't have to be governmental. It could be medical or whatever the case may be. If R&D type stuff in it. Video surveillance. This is popular now on securing devices. Having a video camera literally on all the servers. This is very popular. Whereas an IT person, I can remote in to a camera on my phone, view the health of my network. Maybe I'll have it pointed to temperature gauge in the room, which is I want to know, because most IT server rooms need to be a certain temperature. And so I want to see the temperature, especially in the summer months, because you know as well as I do, air conditioners go out, and if you have 10 servers in a small room and that air conditioner's went out, it can quickly heat up. And so there is monitors in the thermostat that will alert me when it gets down to such a level, but I like to catch it before that. And so I actually have cameras on the wall thermostat of the temperature that I can log in just to see it. So I could care less about looking at servers with lights on it, but this actually is productive because I can look at a thermostat and determine if it's okay or not in that room, if that makes sense. And by the way, the technology to do that anymore is very cheap, by the way, to do any type of video surveillance. I used to be in security going through school, and we had, you can get the expensive pinhole cameras that can go into like, we used to have them in elevators, on the outside of elevators, and like a plug-in, like a junction box would have a pinhole camera to keep track of people going in, going out, stuff like that, employee theft. And they were like $250 for one pinhole camera. But anymore, if you have an old phone around, like an old iPhone, or even a Droid will work too, you can set it up somewhere, have it plugged into power, and that would actually be serving as your monitor. Run an app on your new phone, the one you use, and monitor that area 24/7. And IP cameras are dirt cheap. Well, you're right as well. IP cameras are dirt cheap to get, so you can go to Best Buy and look at those. But closed circuit TV is very popular. Here says it's limited to a set of receivers, and that's generally the case. And they're generally fixed. Even you can get like a 360 camera for like $70. It does a 360 panorama. It's not real expensive. And so you might need one in a server room to keep track of certain things in that room. Fencing is also around the area. Perimeter fencing you might have in some areas, governmental and non-governmental, that have high research and development. So here are some types of fences. You've heard of all these, I'm guessing, but you might not have. An anti-climb. This is actually one you probably haven't heard of. It's called anti-climb paint, is what it's called. It's a non-toxic petroleum gel-based paint that can be quickly applied to any surface. It's not hardened, and it makes any coated surface very difficult to climb on. It's typically used on poles, downpipes, wall tops, railings above height like 8 feet or higher. Anti-climb collar is a spike collar that extends above the fence line. You've seen those before probably. Have spikes on the end of it for folks can't climb over it easily. They put these also on tops of CCTV poles. You'll see these actually on 90 now. They upgraded 90. They put a lot of these CCTV poles to monitor traffic and speed now. And there actually has been people that have got tickets on that, by the way, so just so you know, be careful. You can get a ticket from one of these CCTV poles that monitor traffic. But they have spikes on top of them to where it's hard to climb it, hard to climb the pole, or impossible. Roller barrier. This is independently rotating large cups within a diameter of 5 inches or 150 millimeters. It goes on the top of the fence, and it basically is like barbed wire rolling down the top of the fence on top of it for people not to get in. And then rotating spikes. This will be on top of gates, fences, and can be painted to blend into the fence. But if you hit one of those, it does some major damage. You can really cut it quickly. And some of them can be razor sharp too on those rotating spikes. So hardware security, continuing on with that, we've talked about physical with servers and monitors. Now let's talk about, in the middle part of the slide here, laptops may also be placed in a safe. Most likely today, companies are just putting them in their office on a docking station if they don't take them home, and that room would be locked. Locking cabinets can also be used to pre-wired for power. We use these in school a lot. We used to have laptop carts and tablet carts. We put them in and plug them into the cart. Here's an example of a cable lock, by the way. And some of your IBM laptops, Toshiba, high-end Dells have these locks built into the laptop to where you can basically plug it in. And that key, if you notice, that little round key, that silver thing on the laptop itself, again, it's the same type of key you use if you've done any vending before, same type of little round key, you get into that. And those, by the way, are not that hard to duplicate. And so it's good to have those Aries monitors if you're going to use those. Mobile devices, we already talked about this a little bit, but remote wipe and saying, how many of your phones have a remote wipe feature that you guys can buy or you already have on your phone or your tablet? Most people surprisingly aren't aware of that. They maybe have heard of it, but they aren't aware they literally have it on their device. The way it works on the iPhone and the iPad is, if somebody steals my iPad or my iPhone, as soon as they connect to the internet, I can see where they're at. Not like on my iPad here, it's got built-in cellular, so that's real easy to connect to, and so I can actually lock the screen if it's stolen. It'll tell me where it's at. I can put a little message for the person, like, please call this number if I've lost it, or this tablet's being traced. Turn it in at this local law enforcement or something like that. Whatever message you want to put on there. But I can do a wipe and sanitation. I can wipe it clean. GPS tracking. And there's been multiple stories you might have heard of online of where people have had this happen to them, have had an iPad or iPhone stolen. Call the police. The police know about this now. And they can actually track. There's been people stopped, traffic stops from police that have been tracking them with GPS on a stolen iPhone or iPad, and put them in custody right then. And so this happens quite a bit, actually. A lot of people aren't aware of that in both the iOS world and also in the Droid world, where phones are stolen, especially new phones coming out, whether it be a new Droid coming out or new iOS coming out. People like to steal them and to resell them on eBay. So you buy a hot phone for 3/4 the price of what it costs in the store. Some unique features on some of these devices would be also voice encryption, where you could mask the content of your voice communication over a smartphone. So 5 steps for online or operating system software security. You have to develop what's called a security policy of some type, whether it be password changes on the software. That's generally what it is, changes so often. Perform host software baselining. Basically what this is where you can determine if there's updates available for that software. If there are, do we need to apply those updates? And I've shared a little bit of my thoughts on updates already this semester, but if it's a unique software that's you've bought and it's your software, it's probably okay to go ahead and allow those updates to occur on that software, because a lot of times there are going to be new features or new security helps for you. Configuring operating system security and settings. We'll do that Thursday a little bit. We'll show you Thursday how you can set IE on a computer to basically block downloads. You can also set it to only watch certain types of movies, or for kids to play certain types of games, or for it to be available in a certain time frame. Deploying the settings upon the system can be done through individual use or an Active Directory. If you do Active Directory, which most IT departments do, they'll set up one system using Active Directory and Group Policy Editor, which you'll play with a little bit this semester. And what you'll do is basically use Group Policy Editor, set up all the security ramifications for this group of users, like marketing, can only open up Word, Excel, Internet Explorer, and Microsoft Outlook Exchange, and that's it. No other applications can they open. They can't install applications. They can't download applications. They can't put a USB drive in. It won't read it. You can do all that in Active Directory through Group Policy Editor. And most students aren't aware of that as well, because you can get in trouble using it, because you can lock yourself out of the computer by playing with it. But Group Policy Editor is used in a lot of IT departments to secure this operating system for folks doing things they shouldn't be doing. Because human nature is, if you tell, especially Americans, do not by any means go to Facebook during office hours. What's the first thing they do? Go to Facebook during office hours, right? Do not by any means go to twitter.com or LinkedIn during, or eBay. eBay used to be huge. I don't think it's huge as it used to be. Does anybody here use eBay? Buy anything on eBay? Yeah. Used to be huge, by the way. But IT departments we had to block that out for Wazoo because all day long people were bidding on stuff on eBay. But I don't think that's the case anymore. Now I'm guessing it's more of when you buy things online, Amazon. Yeah, maybe Amazon would be a big one, right? How many buy things on Amazon? Amazon would be pretty big, right? So Amazon, probably IT departments have a headache with. And social media, for sure. And they are fairly easy to block, by the way, if they're on the network. If they're not on your network, I don't really care. But if they're on my network, I want to be able to control what they do. If they're not on your network, which most people bring in their own phones, right, their own tablets, they can do whatever they want to. Now, the problem with what I just said is, on it's called Bring Your Own Device, BYOD, is when they connect to my network now, after they've done whatever they want to, while they've been on their network or cellular or whatever, that's where the problem lies, because that's where networks actually get a lot of viruses today, is whenever mobile phones, laptops, or tablets connect to an existing business infrastructure, and they have on that computer, tablet, mobile device, malware, worms, whatever, then connected now to my network. And since it's behind the firewall, my network trusts that connection. And now that it's behind a firewall, it's kind of like almost bringing a burglar into your house. What would you like to eat? Okay, we're going to go to bed. You can do whatever you want to. Just make sure to shut the door before you leave. That's basically what it's like. Okay? In some cases, BYOD is really it's a 4-letter word, basically, in a lot of IT departments. And so you will see a lot of businesses today, if you haven't already seen, that focus on and will say in their tagline, we specialize in BYOD security. Meaning, there's tons of businesses now that basically, within your environment, can literally control every mobile device that's ever could be connected to your environment, and do quick scans of that tablet, of that phone, and tell the user immediately what kind of phone it is, what kind of device it is, and pop up a message saying, you cannot connect to this network, please contact IT department, with a simple command. But there's businesses that literally specialize in that. And they're making a lot of money because IT departments don't know how to handle it because we don't have the infrastructure or software to do it. And so there's actually businesses that focus on this now that you might have heard of. If you ever get a chance, or I ever hear of one here locally, I'll let you guys know about it. Every once in a while, they'll have a company that'll do like a lunch and learn type thing where you can show up on a Wednesday afternoon at noon to 1 and eat lunch, and they'll show you new technology. And if I hear of one that has to do with anything I'm talking about here, I'll let you guys know about it. By the way, are you guys available? A lot of lunch and learns are usually a Wednesday or a Thursday. By raising hands, are you available for lunch 12 to 1 on a Wednesday or Thursdays? Wednesday or Thursdays? Anybody? No.
This semester?
Yeah, this semester, yeah. Yeah, cool. All right, so 2 or 3 of you, that'd be great. So again, Entree's one, by the way. Entree Computer Systems in town host a lot of these lunch and learns. What people do is they bring in their new equipment that I just talked about, and then Entree will invite the community, including students, are invited to this. Doesn't cost anything, and you get pizza and whatever, salad, drink, and you get to listen and watch a demo of new technology. So it's kind of cool. And this is one of the newer technologies, BYOD security. And then lastly, implementing patch management. Here on campus, we have our own patch management software where we roll out on a weekly basis when the computers are, nobody's at the computer after hours. It pushes software that needs to be updated on that computer. Once it's done pushing it, it restarts the computer, and then the computer person comes in Monday, everything's good to go. And that's popular in IT to do that because they can manage and control when that patch occurs. I also recommend blocking Microsoft Update website on your domain because people can cause damage, problems on a computer. And if it doesn't cause problems, if everybody's downloading an update from Microsoft at 9 o'clock in the morning, what problem is that going to cause, you think, on a network? Anybody? Yeah, it's just slow them down, right? It's going to fill up that tunnel much quicker and have much slower bandwidth for normal business. So patch management is awesome to use, and blocking Microsoft's update website. And we do that here on campus as well for faculty and staff. They can't go to that website. So develop a security policy. Do all businesses use a security policy? I'm glad you asked. No, they don't. It takes somebody putting one together for their unique business and defining it with their defense mechanisms, whatever it might be. Might be a proximity door. Might be, okay, we have everybody change their password every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days. The password has to be 8 to 10 characters. It has to have a cap, special character, and 2 numbers or something in it. Every employee has to go through an email security class on how to send and receive emails. Shows them things not to open, things not to send. Even goes through practical things like flaming, which you might not have heard of before. Flaming is a term in emailing to where when you're mad, you email somebody. You're taught not to do that. That's not good. Because once you send it, right, it's gone. It's there forever. And so flaming is something that's taught in these type of classes as well. It's much better to go over to the cubicle and have an exchange of words because generally it's not being recorded. Generally. I'm not saying it wouldn't be recorded, but generally not being recorded. Email, yeah. And you've probably seen some stuff on YouTube or emails people have posted of stuff they got fired for that they said. Whether it be, say you've been working somewhere for 5 years, somebody just got hired and they got that position you've been vying for the last 3 years. You send an email to the managers, a few choice words, and you got a box that afternoon walking out the door. And so don't do that. So those are the things, security policy that can help you. Items not to share on the internet, never share your password, just security policies that you have built in. And then performing a host-based, what's called baselining, making sure all your computers and servers have a certain minimal requirement that they've been checked against and evaluated. An example I'll give you, most IT departments will do a scan of every PC within a 6-month period or at least every year of what that computer, the user on that computer has been searching. So do a scan, a deep scan to determine that. You can also determine on that scan their login patterns, their log out patterns, and can bring up some red flags on reporting. So for instance, if they're spending, 7 hours of the day on the internet, this type of log can show them that. It can also show them how much time they're spending on the productivity app they're supposed to be working on as well. And so baselining is important to determine that, packaging for that. Configuring operating system security, there's hundreds and hundreds of different ways to manipulate. I've already mentioned group policy editor. All I'll mention about this slide is that group policy editor and setting anything security setting on a computer needs to be very slow process. And the way I do it with group policy editor is basically have the screen up in front of me and literally go through the settings on the screen. So say I disable control panel from being viewed. That's a popular one. IT department might not want anybody to see the control panel but them. Because in the control panel you can do a lot of things. You can uninstall apps, you can install apps, install printers. So it's literally a check mark in Group Policy Editor to get rid of Control Panel. Well, I can uncheck it, literally go test it while my screen's up, and if I don't like it, I can go back in and enable it again. So you can, with configuration baseline and setting, you can change insecure default settings, you can eliminate unnecessary software services, turn off ports, turn off protocols, enable things like firewalls to be turned on or turned off, depending on your area. And then this slide goes over what I've already mentioned, which is your policy editor, and also deploying settings. Any deploying of settings in a network environment is generally going to be done in Group Policy Editor. The operating systems over the years, from Windows 3.1 to present day Windows 10, have gained complexity and increased in size and scope. There's tons of new tools to make things, attacks tools to actually make things easier for hackers to use. But a lot of these attacks, by the way, are attacking old, open vulnerabilities. Like, say, for instance, an attack might be attacking an old messenger port that was fixed 2 years ago. There's still those attacks out there where you remote control a computer. So I'm going to end on this one tonight. The different types of operating systems. And Windows 10 is definitely going to be on the network client side. Windows 10 is where we're at today. And the number on this one for Windows 7 is 50 million. Windows 10, the last I heard, was 85 million, the number for Windows 10. But you have Linux, 5 million, FreeBSD, 9 million, Red Hat Linux, 30 million. And I gave you the stat for Windows 10, which was something like 85 or something like that, 85 million. Mac OS, its numbers around that, about 100 million now on Mac OS. And then, but it's been out longer than Windows 10. And then Debian is a version of OS for Linux, 324 million. And the reason that's so high is a lot of web servers today run off a Debian operating system, which is a Linux operating system. So, end with the fact of, out of all we've said today, that patch management, updating systems within your IT environment needs to be managed by IT and not the end user. In fact, most all clients in an IT client-server architecture will have the automatic update feature turned off for a reason, what I just mentioned. You want to do it during off hours, take less bandwidth. The other thing is to have not only patch management system in place to automatically do things like automatic updates. That would actually be done on a client somewhere in IT during testing. And then when it's been tested thoroughly and checked with all the other software, then we push it out with our packaging software. The last one it mentions here is patches can sometimes create new problems, and I've maybe mentioned that in here. I know I have my 110, is that patches in Microsoft, we'll talk about them because they create most patches, and the reason they do is they're the most used operating system in the world when it comes to businesses. So patches can be made by Microsoft for any business. Okay, let's pick on IBM for a second. So let's say IBM creates a new hardware, right? Or new application, let's say a new application that's doing weird things in the Microsoft operating system. They contact Microsoft and say, you guys need to open up this port because it's blocked by default on all Windows machines, and we need to go to every one of our machines to open it up. Okay, we'll create a patch for that. Well, guess what? You don't need that. Only IBM does. But Microsoft will put it out on their website, and it'll generally won't mention IBM in the update. It'll just mention something like, this opens up port whatever for unique applications by companies, something like that. It'll leave IBM out of the actual description. But here's where your problem lies in. anytime you run a patch, let's say it's on a scanner, hardware, that you scan papers with or pictures with, right? Well, let's say that a vendor has an update they pushed out for a scanner, and it's your model of scanner, but you have a different version than this vendor just pushed out. Well, let's say the update is pushed out onto your servers, and it restarts and locks up that service from running because it's the wrong version. That's what happens when you don't have testing when you push out patches. When a server restarts, some of these patches can turn off automatic processes from turning on, or turn on processes that should be turned off. And that can halt businesses in the dirt, because if you come in the morning and you can receive emails but can't send emails, that's a problem. And so a lot of times these patches can cause problems. That's why, in my opinion, and most IT departments will have any updates managed by central area, which would be a server area, versus a client area. Does that make sense? Because a client area, the local client can really mess up not only bandwidth during the day, but it could apply an update maybe they don't need to apply. And I'll end with Adobe Acrobat. Anybody use Adobe Acrobat to read PDFs? Probably everybody, right? Well, Adobe is prone for updates continually. And they had an update last year, end of last year, that disabled a network port from communicating on the network and couldn't get to your network files, basically, is what it did. It disabled you from viewing your network files. So you would log in just fine, but then when you went to go to your map drives in your computer, they were all gone because it disabled the mapping mechanism in Windows through this Adobe update. So Adobe realized their mistake because they didn't do further testing or whatever the case may be. So they put out another patch to fix it. But a lot of folks were down for, the first hour of work. So between 9 and 10, 8 and 9 or whatever. Because most IT folks, when they see something like that happen, you usually realize, okay, what updated the night that we had no control over? And Adobe's one of those deals that that time a lot of IT departments let them update on the client automatically. So they had to go around, figure out what it was, figured out Adobe was it, went online, found out the reason why it was doing it, and basically just rolled back that update on every client, and then proceeded to turn off the automatic updates on Adobe. And so, so the moral of the story is, don't just be doing updates to be doing updates. Make sure you test it in a computer that's off the network, or that it's not in a production use before you roll them out. So Thursday when you guys come in, we're going to be doing man in the middle. I'll be on this machine here. I will have you come in and log into Facebook with a bogus username and password. Do not use your real one because I will capture it. But we're going to be, between now and Thursday, have you be, if you might want to think about things that people could do in a man-in-the-middle attack. And what it basically is in a nutshell, I'll tell you before you leave, is when a man-in-the-middle attack is occurring, we're just going to use Facebook as the example Thursday. But literally, I am seeing all the traffic from everybody in here when the man-in-the-middle attack occurs. So what websites you're visiting, what keystrokes you're typing in if I want to, what username and password you're putting in. And then I can kill that man-in-the-middle attack, take it, unplug it from the network, walk outside in my car, and literally begin to scan now this log of all this data. So it doesn't take a long time to get a whole bunch of information. And one of the things I'll end with is that, about man-in-the-middle attack, is the fact that when people fail on a password, like say you've done it before, right? You put a wrong password in. Maybe you fat fingered something, put the wrong number in. Instead of a 6, you put a 7. What's human nature to do if you fail a password? What's the first logical thing to do if it fails? What do you do? What's the first thing you do? Try again, but you try to Do you ever try another password? You think, well, maybe I've tried this a couple times. You ever done that before? Well, human nature is, and hackers know this, when people fail on a password, it's not uncommon for them to literally try every known username and password that they literally use in their life presently within a minute's period of time. So you're talking banking, email, social media, all trying all different combinations of passwords on a failed password page, right, to try to get in, because that's what a man-in-the-middle attack does is they use a recognized service, have people connect to it, and the people fail on the login attempt. With that first login attempt, they might try it again, that same password, but after the second time, they're trying every username password combination they have. And so by the end of the hack, basically, session, then that hackers killed it in like a minute or two, so they got 50 people on this man-in-the-middle attack using Facebook only. They can literally have in that log file that they kept track of, that you'll see on the screen here, I'll show you a log file that I'll pull up that'll have everybody's username and password, your initial screen, and then your failed attempt screen. But the hacker will have all known username and passwords that this person tried. They will also have email addresses, website traffic that person went to where they can use a combination of emails and passwords that they've received now, username and password, in combination with websites that they see that you try to go to or have been to that day. And then within 24 hours, basically, this person's identity can be totally not only compromised, but their financial totally down, zero, wiped out.
So they can access like debit cards.
Yeah, they can have access to everything.
Before you know it,
right. Before you literally get your latte filled up again, get in the car, the hacker possibly had already went into all of your accounts, transferred money, whatever the case may be. Because, you know, even Facebook now has, for business use anyway, some individuals use this now, where you can buy ads to boost a post for businesses, for an event. Well, guess what? Credit cards are built into that now as well. And so now, you know, username for Facebook, but now you have credit card information as well. And so, yeah, so you'll be kind of, it's kind of an eye-opening lab. It's kind of interesting. We'll talk about ways so you can stop it from happening on your network. And by the end of the lab, you'll also have a handout along with, I think it's around 100 meg file. It's a zip file that has all the steps. Once you decompress it, it has all the steps. The application we use is cont'd, and the steps of how to do it. So that's what we're doing Thursday. And then we'll do a mini lab, take about 10 minutes on Internet Explorer security and the browser wars. You know, like a one handout sheet on the browser wars and where all these browsers set and juxtaposition to each other as far as usability and how people use it in real world and business and at home. So that's what we'll do Thursday. But it's good to be back. See you guys Thursday. If you have any questions, come up and see me. That's it. We're done. And remember, Friday, you have till Friday to finish week 4 stuff.